At 05:00 hours, when the Pentagon's corridors still echoed with the hollow footsteps of security rounds and the distant hum of overnight operations, Elena Vasquez pushed her cleaning cart through the maze of America's most secure building. Window. Cleaning supplies, microfiber claws arranged with military precision, squeegees that caught no light, an industrial-strength glass cleaner that left no streaks or residue. Everything regulation, everything standard, everything designed to make her invisible. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. She had worked the early morning shift for 11 months, arriving through employee entrance Delta 7, with a security badge that granted access to corridors where defense budgets were debated and global strategies were born. Her supervisor, Bill Crawford, a 20-year facilities veteran with opinions about everything, had assigned her the East Wing windows, 37 panels of reinforced glass that looked out toward Arlington National Cemetery, where rows of white markers stood in perfect formation. The windows required specific cleaning protocols. Each pane measured exactly 4 feet by 6 feet, triple-layered security glass that could withstand impact that would shatter conventional materials. The cleaning solution had to meet chemical composition standards that prevented electronic interference with classified equipment. Every movement was monitored by security cameras that tracked everything from facial recognition to the precise angle of squeegee strokes. Elena's technique was flawless. Horizontal passes followed by vertical finishing strokes, working from top to bottom in patterns that eliminated water spots and maintained optical clarity. No excess motion, no wasted movements, no conversation with passing personnel who had clearances that exceeded her janitorial authorization. She cleaned windows the way a master craftsman approached fine woodwork, with patience, precision, and pride that others rarely noticed or appreciated. The Pentagon's morning rhythm began at 06:00 when the first wave of analysts, planners, and administrators arrived to process intelligence reports that had accumulated during overnight hours. Generals whose decisions influenced global stability walked past Elena's ladder without acknowledgement. Intelligence officers whose assessments shaped presidential briefings stepped around her equipment with barely concealed impatience. Defense contractors whose technologies determined battlefield outcomes treated her like mobile furniture that occasionally blocked their path to important meetings. Lieutenant Colonel Patricia Williams, a career intelligence officer with 15 years of Pentagon experience, made her frustration clear during the second week of Elena's assignment. "Can't you schedule window cleaning during off hours?" she asked Crawford during a facilities meeting. Having maintenance personnel in secure corridors during operational hours creates unnecessary security considerations. Crawford, whose management philosophy emphasized efficiency over accommodation, supported his cleaning crew with bureaucratic stubbornness. "Ma'am, these windows require daylight cleaning to identify security vulnerabilities. Streaks or residue could compromise visual surveillance capabilities." Williams consulted her tablet, scrolling through security protocols that governed every aspect of Pentagon operations. The cleaning schedule interferes with classified briefings. Personnel without appropriate clearances shouldn't have visual access to operational discussions. "Ma'am, the cleaning crew undergoes background investigations that exceed standard security requirements. They're authorized for facility access during operational hours." Elena continued her work while the debate proceeded around her, her squeegee moving in steady strokes that had achieved muscle memory perfection. She understood the dynamics career officers protecting territorial authority against support staff who represented potential security complications. Standard institutional thinking that measured worth by clearance levels rather than contribution quality. But Elena also understood things that career officers didn't consider. How window positioning provided sightlines into briefing rooms where tactical decisions were debated. How glass clarity affected the readability of presentation materials from external observation points. How seemingly minor environmental details could influence operational security in ways that conventional thinking didn't account for. Her background check had revealed exactly what Pentagon security required: 11 years of professional cleaning experience, no criminal history, financial stability that eliminated security concerns, and personal references that painted the picture of a dedicated worker who completed assignments without creating administrative complications. What it hadn't revealed was information that didn't appear in standard employment databases. Defense Intelligence Agency files from 12 years earlier contained records of Elena Vasquez, former systems analyst with specialization in facility security and electronic surveillance countermeasures. MIT graduate with advanced degrees in electrical engineering and computer science. Author of classified papers on physical security vulnerabilities in high-security government installations. Consultant on penetration resistance for facilities. Housing sensitive national security operations. But those files were archived in classification levels that required authorization beyond normal personnel background investigations. Elena's transition from defense analyst to janitorial services appeared as a gap in employment history that security clearance investigators attributed to personal career changes that fell within acceptable parameters for facility access. She had chosen window cleaning deliberately, not from lack of options or financial necessity, but because window maintenance provided comprehensive access to facilities whose security she had once analyzed from theoretical perspectives. Every corridor, every office, every briefing room required window cleaning that brought her into proximity with operations that had evolved since her classified consultation years. The work satisfied requirements that her previous career had never addressed. Physical activity that cleared mental fog that accumulated during years of theoretical analysis. Routine that provided stability after the psychological chaos of intelligence work that measured success in preventing disasters rather than achieved victories. Anonymity that protected her from institutional pressures that had made defense consultation increasingly impossible to sustain. Elena's cart contained standard janitorial supplies, but her observations contained information that would have interested people with clearances exceeding those held by most Pentagon personnel. How electronic equipment positioning affected electromagnetic signatures that could be detected through window glass. How personnel movement patterns revealed operational schedules that conventional surveillance might not identify. How architectural features created security vulnerabilities that facility assessments hadn't considered. She recorded none of these observations, made no reports to supervisors or security personnel, maintained professional boundaries that kept her analytical insights separate from her janitorial responsibilities. But 12 years of defense intelligence experience couldn't be erased by career transition, and patterns that indicated security concerns continued registering in mind. Trained to recognize institutional vulnerabilities. At 0630, General Robert Hayes arrived for morning briefings that would influence military operations across 3 different theaters of conflict. His entourage included intelligence advisors whose assessments affected resource allocation for operations, involving thousands of personnel. Elena cleaned windows in the corridor where they passed, her squeegee maintaining rhythm that suggested complete focus on glass clarity rather than classified conversations occurring within earshot. Hayes paused at the window she was cleaning, studying the view toward Arlington Cemetery where military honors were conducted for personnel who had made ultimate sacrifices in service of national security. "Good work," he said quietly, acknowledging her presence with respect that career officers rarely demonstrated toward support staff. Elena nodded once, maintaining professional boundaries while recognizing genuine appreciation from someone whose authority extended across multiple branches of military operations. Hayes continued toward briefing rooms where intelligence assessments would shape decisions affecting global stability, unaware that the woman cleaning his office windows possessed analytical expertise that might have enhanced the tactical discussions he was about to conduct. The morning routine continued with mathematical precision. Windows cleaned according to regulation standards. Security protocols maintained without deviation. Classified discussions proceeding in briefing rooms with optimal visual clarity provided by glass. Maintenance that enabled clear sight lines while protecting against external surveillance capabilities. By 0800, Elena had completed her assigned section and moved her cart towards storage areas where cleaning supplies were maintained according to facilities management protocols. Around her, the Pentagon hummed with operational energy that drove military decisions affecting national security. On global scales, ***. Tomorrow would bring the same routine. Same windows, same cleaning protocols, same invisible presence in corridors where the world's most powerful military machine conducted business that rarely acknowledged the support personnel who maintained the infrastructure that made complex operations possible. 3 weeks into her assignment, Elena had memorized every reflection pattern in the East Wing security glass. Morning sunlight created predictable glare angles at 0647 hours that obscured visibility into briefing room C14. Afternoon shadows from Arlington's oak trees cast geometric patterns across windows that could mask electronic surveillance equipment. If someone knew how to read environmental camouflage techniques, she worked with mechanical consistency that supervisors appreciated and security personnel ignored. Same arrival time, same equipment arrangement, same cleaning sequence that brought her into proximity with classified discussions without appearing to listen or observe. But Elena's training at the Defense Intelligence Agency had taught her that the most valuable intelligence came from patterns that others dismissed as routine background noise. Dr. Margaret Foster, a civilian contractor specializing in cyber warfare defense systems, had begun arriving at the Pentagon 47 minutes earlier than her scheduled briefings. Elena noticed because Foster's early arrival coincided with her window cleaning. In the corridor outside Strategic Planning Division offices, the contractor carried no visible materials beyond a standard briefcase, but her movement pattern suggested someone accessing information that required additional security protocols. Elena's squeegee moved in steady, horizontal strokes while Foster used her security badge to enter offices that remained dark until the official workday began. Not unusual behavior for contractors with deadlines requiring extended hours, but the timing patterns indicated systematic early access that exceeded normal project requirements. Security cameras monitored every corridor, but Elena understood surveillance blind spots that institutional thinking hadn't considered. Camera positioning, optimized for personnel identification, created gaps in coverage when subjects moved at specific angles relative to architectural features. Foster's early morning movements followed routes that minimized surveillance exposure, while maintaining plausible operational necessity. Preparing and narrating the story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. ***. The pattern continued for 6 consecutive days. Foster arrived early, accessing strategic planning offices during minimal staffing periods. Departing before standard briefing schedules brought additional personnel into secure areas. Elena cleaned windows that provided clear sight lines into the corridor, her professional routine creating legitimate presence during times when few others had operational reasons for being present. On the 7th day, Foster's routine changed. Instead of proceeding directly to strategic planning offices, she paused at windows overlooking the parking area. Her attention focused on vehicle movements that preceded normal arrival schedules. Elena continued her cleaning work while observing Foster's surveillance behavior through reflection, Patterns in the security glass. Foster was watching for something specific. Her position provided visual access to employee entrances, where arriving personnel could be identified and cataloged. Her timing coincided with early shift changes that brought intelligence analysts, operations planners, and defense contractors into the building during transitional periods when security awareness was typically lower. Elena recognized them. Methodology. Behavioral surveillance techniques designed to identify personnel patterns, schedule vulnerabilities, and access routines that could be exploited for intelligence gathering purposes. Foster wasn't just arriving early for legitimate work, she was conducting reconnaissance that required understanding Pentagon operational rhythms from an insider perspective. The realization triggered analytical processes that Elena had tried to suppress since transitioning to janitorial duties. 12 years of defense intelligence training couldn't be erased by career change, and patterns that indicated potential security threats continued registering in mind. Trained to recognize institutional vulnerabilities, but Elena had no official channels for reporting suspicious behavior observed during window cleaning duties. Her security clearance authorized facility access, but not intelligence analysis. Her job description specified cleaning responsibilities that explicitly excluded security assessments or behavioral observation reports. Speaking to supervisors about contractor surveillance activities would raise questions about why window cleaning personnel were monitoring classified staff movements. She continued her routine while processing implications that extended beyond immediate security concerns. Foster's behavior suggested coordination with external intelligence services that required precise timing and systematic information gathering. The early arrival pattern provided access to information about Pentagon operations that could compromise national security. If transmitted to hostile organizations, Elena's cleaning cart contained standard janitorial supplies, but her observations contained intelligence that defense analysts would have classified as actionable threat assessment. Foster's surveillance patterns indicated sophisticated understanding of Pentagon security protocols, suggesting either extensive preparation by hostile intelligence services or compromised insider information that enabled systematic penetration of classified facilities. The following week brought additional confirmation of Foster's intelligence gathering activities. Her early arrivals expanded to include different floors, different offices, and different personnel observation points that provided comprehensive coverage of Pentagon operational areas. She carried digital devices that appeared to be standard contractor equipment, but were positioned for data collection rather than project-related work. Elena recognized electronic surveillance indicators that conventional security awareness training didn't address. Device positioning that optimized electromagnetic signal collection. Battery pack configurations that suggested extended operational capability beyond normal business requirements. Cable arrangements that indicated data transmission capabilities. Rather than standard computational functions, Foster was conducting electronic intelligence gathering in addition to behavioral surveillance. Her equipment was designed for systematic data collection from Pentagon electronic systems, transmitted through communication channels that bypassed normal security monitoring protocols. The operation represented sophisticated penetration of America's most secure defense facility by intelligence services with resources and planning capability that exceeded typical espionage activities. Elena's analytical training identified multiple security vulnerabilities that Foster was exploiting. Early arrival timing that avoided peak security awareness periods. Contractor status that provided legitimate facility access without extensive daily screening procedures. Electronic equipment that appeared standard but functioned as specialized intelligence gathering tools. Movement patterns that minimized surveillance exposure while maximizing information collection opportunities. The threat assessment was clear, but Elena's official position provided no mechanism for reporting intelligence concerns to appropriate authorities. Window cleaning personnel weren't included in security threat reporting procedures. Observations made during janitorial duties weren't considered legitimate intelligence sources. Her analytical expertise existed outside official Pentagon recognition, making her insights unavailable to defense personnel who needed threat assessment information. General Hayes passed through the corridor during Elena's cleaning shift. His morning briefings including classified discussions about foreign intelligence penetration attempts against Defense Department facilities. Elena continued her window cleaning routine while recognizing that Hayes was discussing threats that were actively occurring within his own building, conducted by personnel whose suspicious behavior she had been observing for weeks. The irony was profound. Pentagon leadership was analyzing foreign intelligence threats, while those threats were being executed by contractors whose surveillance activities remained undetected by security systems designed to protect classified operations. Elena possessed intelligence that could identify and neutralize the security compromise, but institutional barriers prevented her analytical insights from reaching decision-makers who needed threat assessment information. She completed her assigned cleaning section and moved her cart towards storage areas, her mind processing tactical implications that extended beyond immediate security concerns. Foster's intelligence operation represented systematic compromise of Pentagon operations by hostile services with sophisticated understanding of American defense vulnerabilities. Tomorrow would bring the continuation of both routines. Elena would clean windows with professional consistency that provided legitimate presence in secure corridors. Foster would conduct intelligence gathering that compromised national security through systematic exploitation of institutional blind spots. Most dangerous intelligence operation targeting the Pentagon was being conducted by someone whose suspicious behavior was observed daily, by a former defense analyst whose expertise remained invisible to the very people who needed her threat assessment. Capabilities most. At 0538 hours on a Tuesday morning that would reshape Pentagon security protocols forever. Elena arrived at employee entrance, Delta 7, to find something that had never occurred in 11 months of routine. The East Wing was sealed under emergency lockdown. Military police stood at every corridor intersection, their M4 carbines held in ready positions that indicated active threat protocols rather than standard security exercises. Electronic surveillance equipment filled areas normally occupied by administrative personnel. Counterintelligence specialists moved through hallways with detection devices that swept for electronic signatures, indicating hostile surveillance capabilities. Sergeant First Class David Martinez, a career military police officer who had nodded respectfully to Elena during her months of window cleaning duties, approached with the professional courtesy that preceded difficult conversations. "Ma'am, the East Wing facilities are under security investigation. All maintenance activities are suspended pending threat assessment completion." Elena's analytical mind immediately processed implications that extended beyond routine security protocols. Emergency lockdowns occurred when active threats were detected within Pentagon facilities. Counterintelligence sweeps indicated suspected foreign espionage activities. Electronic detection equipment suggested sophisticated surveillance operations that had penetrated classified areas. "Sergeant, how long is the lockdown expected to continue?" she asked, her voice carrying professional concern rather than analytical curiosity. "Ma'am, that information is classified above my authorization level. Facilities management will provide updates when security conditions permit resumption of maintenance operations." Elena understood bureaucratic language that communicated serious threats without revealing classified information. The East Wing lockdown wasn't a temporary inconvenience. It was an active investigation of an intelligence compromise that threatened national security operations. Everything she had observed about Dr. Foster's surveillance activities was now the subject of counterintelligence investigation by Pentagon security specialists. ****. Anderson's expression shifted from routine inquiry to focused attention. "Ma'am, please elaborate on those observations." Timing, personnel identification, specific activities that seemed unusual. Elena's analytical training provided systematic recall of details that conventional witnesses might have missed. Dr. Margaret Foster, civilian contractor, began arriving 47 minutes before scheduled briefings approximately 3 weeks ago. Her early access included strategic planning, division offices during minimal staffing periods. The counterintelligence specialists behind Anderson exchanged glances that confirmed Elena's identification matched their investigation focus. Anderson made notes on his tablet while maintaining professional expression that revealed no classified information. "Ma'am, what specific activities did you observe that seemed outside normal operational parameters?" Foster conducted systematic surveillance of personnel arrival patterns from corridor windows. Her equipment positioning suggested electronic data collection rather than standard project-related functions. Movement patterns indicated training in counter-surveillance techniques designed to minimize security camera exposure. Anderson stopped, taking notes, and looked directly at Elena with the expression of someone recognizing expertise that exceeded expectations. "Ma'am, those are very specific analytical observations. Most facility personnel wouldn't identify counter-surveillance methodologies or electronic data collection indicators." Elena realized that her analytical assessment had revealed knowledge that extended beyond window cleaning responsibilities. Anderson's questions were evaluating not just what she had observed, but how her observations demonstrated understanding of intelligence operations that suggested professional training in threat assessment. "Colonel, I have a background in facility security analysis from previous employment that helps me recognize unusual behavioral patterns." Anderson consulted his tablet, accessing personnel databases that contained employment histories for facility access authorization. What he found made him pause for several seconds before looking back at Elena with completely different professional attention. "Ma'am, I need to verify information with security personnel. Please remain available for additional questions." Anderson stepped away and activated his secure communication device, speaking in tones too low for Elena to overhear, but with urgency that suggested significant developments in the counterintelligence investigation. The specialists behind him accessed their own electronic equipment, apparently conducting database searches that required authorization beyond routine personnel inquiries. When Anderson returned, his approach carried the respect that intelligence officers reserved for sources whose credibility had been verified through classified channels. "Ma'am, I've been authorized to ask more detailed questions about your observations. Your background indicates analytical expertise that could be valuable for our investigation." Elena understood that Anderson had accessed her archived defense intelligence agency files, discovering professional credentials that transformed her from routine witness to potential intelligence asset. The conversation was transitioning from information gathering to professional consultation between intelligence specialists. Colonel Foster's surveillance operation indicated coordination with external intelligence services. Her electronic equipment configuration suggested systematic data transmission capabilities rather than routine contractor functions. The timing patterns provided access to classified personnel movement schedules that could compromise operational security. Anderson's tablet recorded details that would be analyzed by counterintelligence specialists whose investigation was expanding beyond individual contractor activities to systematic penetration attempts by hostile intelligence services. Elena's analytical assessment provided tactical understanding that conventional security protocols had missed. "Ma'am, you're describing sophisticated intelligence gathering methodologies that suggest extensive preparation and professional training. How confident are you in these assessments?" Colonel Foster's operation demonstrated tradecraft consistent with state-sponsored intelligence services. The systematic nature of her surveillance activities combined with electronic capabilities for data collection and transmission, indicates resources that exceed typical corporate espionage or individual penetration attempts. Anderson made additional notes while processing implications that extended beyond immediate facility security. Elena's analytical assessment suggested that Pentagon systems had been penetrated by foreign intelligence operations with capabilities that threatened national security across multiple operational theaters. Behind Anderson, one of the counterintelligence specialists received communication through secure channels that caused him to interrupt the conversation with information that carried obvious urgency. Colonel, Emergency Operations is requesting immediate consultation with personnel who have detailed knowledge of the contractor's surveillance activities. Anderson looked at Elena with the expression of someone whose tactical situation had just become significantly more complex. "Ma'am, I need to ask you to accompany me to Emergency Operations Center Alpha for a detailed briefing with senior counterintelligence leadership. Your analytical expertise appears to be crucial for our investigation." Elena understood that her transition from facility maintenance to intelligence consultation was occurring because the Pentagon crisis required expertise that existed outside official channels. Her observations during window cleaning duties had documented intelligence operations that threatened American national security, and her analytical capabilities were now essential for counterintelligence response. "Colonel, I'm authorized for facility access, but not for participation in classified intelligence operations." Anderson consulted his secure communication device, receiving authorization from Pentagon leadership whose authority exceeded normal security clearance protocols. "Ma'am, you're being granted emergency consultation status under national security provisions. Your analytical insights are needed immediately." As they walked toward Emergency Operations Center Alpha, Elena realized that months of invisible window cleaning were about to become the foundation for one of the most significant counterintelligence operations in Pentagon history. Her expertise, dismissed as irrelevant to national security, was now essential for protecting America's most classified defense systems from foreign intelligence penetration. The institutional barriers that had prevented recognition of her analytical capabilities were dissolving under pressure of crisis that required expertise regardless of official job classifications. Emergency Operations Center Alpha hummed with the controlled chaos of America's highest-level intelligence crisis. Response. Wall-mounted screens displayed real-time threat assessments, electronic surveillance data, and tactical maps showing the scope of foreign penetration into Pentagon systems. Elena entered this classified nerve center still wearing her janitorial uniform, but her transition from window cleaner to intelligence consultant was about to reshape how the Pentagon understood both security threats and hidden expertise. General Hayes stood at the center of the operations floor, surrounded by counterintelligence specialists whose combined experience represented decades of protecting America's most sensitive defense information. When Elena approached Colonel Anderson, Hayes looked up classified briefing materials with the expression of someone whose tactical understanding was about to be fundamentally challenged. "Colonel Anderson," Hayes addressed his counterintelligence chief with the urgency that accompanied national security crises, "what can you tell me about the contractor surveillance operation that compromised our strategic planning systems?" Anderson gestured toward Elena with professional respect that acknowledged expertise regardless of official job classification. "Sir, this is Elena Vasquez, facility maintenance personnel who conducted systematic observation of the hostile intelligence operation for 3 weeks prior to detection by our security systems." Elena stepped forward, her analytical mind instantly processing the classified information displayed throughout the operations center. Electronic surveillance equipment that foreign intelligence had used to penetrate Pentagon systems. Personnel records showing the scope of information that had been compromised. Tactical assessments revealing how hostile services had exploited institutional vulnerabilities that conventional security thinking hadn't anticipated. General Hayes, Elena said, her voice carrying the authority of expertise that transcended rank or official authorization. The contractor operation was significantly more sophisticated than initial security assessments indicate. Hayes studied Elena with the expression of senior leadership, recognizing analytical capabilities that exceeded those of most Pentagon personnel. "Ma'am, Colonel Anderson informs me that you have background relevant to this investigation. Please, provide your assessment of the intelligence operation we're dealing with." Elena approached the central display screen showing electronic intrusion pathways that Foster's equipment had used to access classified systems. "General, Dr. Foster's operation demonstrated tradecraft consistent with foreign military intelligence services rather than conventional corporate espionage. Her systematic approach to behavioral surveillance, combined with sophisticated electronic data collection capabilities, indicates state-sponsored penetration attempts with strategic objectives." The operations center fell silent as Elena's analytical assessment revealed implications that career intelligence officers were still processing. Hayes consulted classified briefing materials while absorbing tactical understanding that came from someone whose expertise had been invisible to Pentagon leadership until the crisis made conventional thinking inadequate. "Ma'am," Hayes said carefully, "you're describing intelligence operation methodologies that suggest extensive professional training. What's your background for making these assessments?" Elena's response carried information that would reshape Pentagon understanding of the analytical expertise that existed within their own facility. "General, I'm a former Defense Intelligence Agency Special Analytics Division. 12 years developing threat assessment protocols for high-security government installations. MIT graduate with specialization in facility security vulnerabilities and electronic surveillance countermeasures." The revelation struck the operations center like a tactical bombshell. Hayes exchanged glances with Anderson and other senior personnel whose security clearances provided access to classified information about personnel whose expertise exceeded official recognition. Elena Vasquez wasn't just a window cleaner who had observed suspicious activities. She was one of the Pentagon's former architects of facility security protocols. "Ma'am," General Hayes continued, his voice reflecting a growing understanding of institutional oversight that had nearly compromised national security, "why are you currently assigned to facilities maintenance rather than intelligence analysis?" Elena's explanation revealed a personal journey that connected professional capability with individual choice in ways that military leadership rarely encountered. "General, 4 years ago I resigned from the Defense Intelligence Agency following Operation Desert Mirage, where my analytical contributions were compromised by internal security breaches that resulted in casualties among special operations personnel." Hayes accessed classified databases on his secure tablet, reviewing mission records that painted a tragic picture of intelligence failure and personal responsibility that had driven Elena's career transition. Operation Desert Mirage had been a textbook example of how foreign penetration of analytical systems could turn American expertise against American personnel. After attending funeral services for operators whose deaths resulted from compromised intelligence that I had developed, I stepped away from defense analysis and chose a support role that would allow me to contribute to national security without direct involvement in tactical decision-making that could endanger personnel. Dr. Susan Chun, the Pentagon's chief cybersecurity analyst, approached Elena with professional recognition that transcended bureaucratic hierarchy. "Ma'am, your analytical protocols for facility security assessment are still used throughout Defense Department installations. Your threat detection methodologies provided the foundation for electronic surveillance countermeasures that protect classified systems worldwide." Elena nodded acknowledgement while processing tactical information displayed throughout the operations center. Foster's intelligence operation had succeeded in penetrating systems that Elena's own analytical work had helped design. creating professional irony that extended beyond individual expertise to institutional understanding of how security vulnerabilities could be exploited by persistent adversaries. General Hayes, Elena continued, her analytical assessment providing tactical clarity that Pentagon leadership desperately needed. Foster's operation achieved systematic access to strategic planning data that could compromise American military operations across multiple theaters. The electronic intrusion pathways she established remain active, providing ongoing intelligence access to hostile services. Anderson stepped forward with urgency that reflected a growing understanding of threat scope. "Ma'am, how do we neutralize the intelligence compromise and prevent future penetration attempts?" Elena approached tactical displays showing electronic surveillance pathways that Foster had used to access classified information. Colonel Foster's operation exploited institutional blind spots in Pentagon security protocols. Her contractor status provided legitimate facility access that bypassed extensive daily screening. Early arrival patterns avoided peak security awareness, periods when surveillance detection was most effective. Her analysis continued with mathematical precision that demonstrated expertise in facility security that exceeded anything currently available to Pentagon counterintelligence specialists. The electronic surveillance equipment she deployed uses communication protocols that mimic standard administrative systems, making detection extremely difficult without specialized analytical tools that can identify behavioral signatures of hostile intelligence gathering. General Hayes authorized immediate implementation of Elena's recommended countermeasures, deploying electronic warfare specialists and counterintelligence teams, according to tactical protocols that she had developed. During her years with the Defense Intelligence Agency, the facility that had employed her as window cleaner was now implementing security procedures based on her analytical expertise to protect against threats she had identified. Within 6 hours, Pentagon counterintelligence teams had neutralized Foster's surveillance network, arrested 3 additional hostile operatives, and secured classified systems against ongoing foreign intelligence penetration. The successful counterintelligence operation was conducted using analytical methodologies that Elena had developed, implemented by teams who finally recognized expertise that had been invisible to institutional thinking until the crisis made conventional approaches inadequate. Elena stood in Emergency Operations Center Alpha as Pentagon leadership processed tactical victory that had been achieved through expertise they had never known existed within their own facility. Her transition from invisible window cleaner to essential intelligence analyst had been completed in less than 12 hours, but the institutional changes her recognition would create were just beginning to reshape how America's most secure facility understood the location and value of analytical expertise. 6 months after the Foster intelligence crisis, Elena Vasquez walked through Pentagon corridors with a security badge that authorized access to classified briefing rooms where her analytical expertise now shaped America's defense against foreign intelligence threats. The transition from window cleaner to senior threat assessment analyst had been completed with institutional efficiency that reflected Pentagon leadership's recognition of expertise regardless of its unexpected origins. Her new office occupied space in the Strategic Intelligence Division, 3 floors above the East Wing corridors where she had cleaned windows while observing systematic espionage that nearly compromised national security. Through reinforced glass that she no longer cleaned, Elena could see Arlington National Cemetery, where military honors continued for personnel whose sacrifices protected freedoms that depended on analytical expertise recognizing threats before they achieved strategic success. General Hayes had personally overseen Elena's reinstatement to classified intelligence operations, but her official assignment came with conditions that reflected lessons learned from institutional oversight that had nearly proven catastrophic. The Hidden Expertise Initiative, established following the Foster crisis, created protocols for identifying and utilizing analytical capabilities Regardless of official job classifications or conventional career pathways, Elena's first major assignment involved developing threat assessment protocols for government facilities nationwide, expanding security methodologies beyond Pentagon installations to include diplomatic missions, research laboratories, and defense contractors whose operations required protection against increasingly sophisticated foreign intelligence penetration attempts. Her analytical frameworks now guided security operations at facilities where America's most sensitive national security work was conducted. The impact extended far beyond individual installations. Elena's case study had become required reading at the Defense Intelligence College, where future analysts studied how institutional thinking could overlook crucial expertise and how crisis situations revealed capabilities that conventional evaluation methods failed to identify. Her experience demonstrated that analytical talent existed throughout government facilities, often possessed by personnel whose expertise remained invisible until emergency situations made conventional approaches inadequate. Dr. Margaret Foster had been convicted of espionage and sentenced to 35 years in federal prison, but her intelligence operation had revealed systematic vulnerabilities in Pentagon security protocols that required comprehensive institutional changes. Elena's analytical assessment of Foster's methodologies provided foundation for security improvements that protected against similar penetration attempts by foreign intelligence services whose capabilities continued evolving beyond conventional defense measures. The Foster case had triggered investigation of contractor access protocols at defense facilities worldwide, resulting in enhanced background screening procedures and behavioral surveillance systems that could identify potential intelligence gathering activities before they achieved systematic penetration of classified systems. Elena's analytical expertise guided development of detection methodologies that prevented foreign intelligence operations from exploiting institutional blind spots that had made Foster's success possible. But Elena's most significant contribution involved transformation of Pentagon culture regarding recognition and utilization of hidden expertise. The facility that had employed her as an invisible window cleaner now conducted systematic evaluation of all personnel for analytical capabilities that might contribute to national security operations regardless of official job descriptions or career classifications. Maintenance staff with military experience received consultation opportunities during security planning sessions. Administrative personnel with language skills provided cultural analysis for international operations. Support contractors with technical expertise contributed to cybersecurity assessments that protected classified systems against evolving electronic threats. The Pentagon had become an institution that recognized talent wherever it existed, rather than limiting expertise recognition to conventional career pathways. Elena's analytical unit had grown to include specialists whose backgrounds reflected diverse paths to intelligence expertise. Former military personnel who had transitioned to civilian support roles. Academic researchers whose theoretical knowledge provided practical insights for operational security. Technology specialists whose understanding of electronic systems exceeded conventional intelligence training. The Hidden Expertise Initiative had created analytical capabilities that drew from institutional knowledge, bases far broader than traditional intelligence career tracks. 3 years after the Foster crisis, Elena received recognition that reflected institutional understanding of how analytical expertise contributed to national security, regardless of its origins. The Secretary of Defense presented her with the Distinguished Civilian Service Award during a ceremony that acknowledged contributions to protecting America's most sensitive defense operations from foreign intelligence threats. But the presentation that mattered most to Elena occurred in a different setting, with an audience that understood personal journey from professional disappointment to renewed purpose. At Arlington National Cemetery, during memorial service for operators whose deaths had influenced her career transition, Elena placed analytical reports at gravesites of personnel whose sacrifice had motivated her return to intelligence service. Reports documented successful defense operations that had been guided by analytical methodologies she had developed, protecting American personnel from threats similar to those that had compromised Operation Desert Mirage. Her expertise, refined through personal responsibility for tactical failures, now contributed to tactical successes that honored memories of operators whose deaths had taught her that analytical precision must be balanced with understanding of human cost when intelligence failures endangered American lives. Elena's window cleaning equipment remained stored in Pentagon facilities, maintained according to regulations, but never again used for janitorial duties that had provided observational access to intelligence threats. The cleaning cart that had carried supplies through corridors where espionage occurred now served as a reminder of how institutional oversight could miss analytical expertise that existed in unexpected places. The East Wing windows that Elena had cleaned with mathematical precision now displayed memorial plaques, recognizing facility personnel who had contributed to national security through expertise that existed outside conventional recognition. Window cleaners, maintenance staff, administrative personnel, and support contractors whose analytical capabilities had enhanced Pentagon operations, despite institutional barriers that initially prevented their contributions from reaching decision-makers who needed specialized knowledge. Elena's story had become an institutional legend that guided Pentagon leadership in recognizing expertise regardless of official job classifications. Her transition from invisible window cleaner to essential intelligence analyst demonstrated that analytical talent existed throughout government facilities, often possessed by personnel whose capabilities remained unrecognized until crisis situations revealed their true potential. The Pentagon that had once employed Elena Vasquez as an unnoticed maintenance worker now understood that national security depended on institutional wisdom recognizing expertise wherever it existed, regardless of the uniform it wore or the credentials it carried. Sometimes the most important analytical insights came from sources that conventional thinking would never consider consulting. And sometimes the most dangerous institutional oversight was assuming that titles and clearances automatically indicated the location of essential expertise. The windows Elena had once cleaned now reflected sunlight across corridors where analytical expertise was recognized and utilized regardless of its origins, where institutional barriers no longer prevented crucial intelligence from reaching decision-makers who needed specialized knowledge to protect American interests worldwide. And in briefing rooms throughout the Pentagon, analytical assessments developed by former window cleaners continued shaping America's defense against threats that conventional thinking might never recognize until expertise hidden in unexpected places made institutional survival possible. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.